Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the continuation of the September 10th board meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. We have come out of closed session, we completed a study session. I'm going to just do pro forma reopen the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was just to give you an opportunity to join us. Okay, with that, we're back in our regular meeting. We have Treasurer Van Oss is excused tonight, but we do have a quorum for business. And with that, we're going to be making some additions, deletions to tonight's agenda. If not me, who wants to go first?
I have a couple, so...
Trustee Budney.
I will go first. I would like to add to the consent agenda number 4, Island Beautification Committee resignation.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, second by the Supervisor. Any discussion among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of adding the IBC resignation to as consent agenda number 4, please signify by saying aye.
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 I would like to add consent agenda number 5, approval of closed session minutes, update on status of case 17-00-8386-CZ, and open space property negotiations.
Okay, I'll support. So, any discussion among the board? Those in favor of adding as consent agenda number 5, approval of closed session minutes, the update on the status of case aforementioned, and the open space property negotiations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. And finally, I'd like to add consent agenda number 6, approval of closed session minutes, TPOAM negotiations.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney. Supervisor will second. Discussion among the board? None offered. Those in favor of adding as consent agenda number 6, approval of the closed session minutes for the TPOAM negotiations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That will carry. Anyone? I would like to add a presentation from the EPA. We have Mr. Kelly here, and we have a number of guests who are interested in what he has to say. I'd like to move that as a presentation at the beginning of the meeting.
Support.
Second.
Budney got the second. I'm sorry. Okay, any discussion among the board? Okay, with those in favor of adding the presentation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That will be added. Mr. Bletcher?
I would ask to delete action item number 5, the police lieutenant promotion.
I will second. Discussion among the board.
Yes.
Is there any reason to do this?
Yes.
What is the reason to do it?
Reason that we have requesting that be deleted is that currently we have the lieutenant position that is open, and we have also now received indication that our chief is going to be retiring. So we will have had, in a very short period of time, retirement of Deputy Chief Bowe, anticipating the retirement of Chief Porcerelli, and we have approved the promotion of Deputy Chief Warnick to his current position. We had 3 people that applied for that position and 2 that turned it down for the Deputy Chief. So the commission needs to have some time to analyze and determine who is going to be involved in that. And there's also a question about the terms of the employment conditions, if there's going to be specifically a parachute provision in there. There's been some ambiguity with that, whether or not the lieutenant can choose to return to the bargaining unit. Those are things that all need to be addressed. Plus, Officer Pelland indicated tonight that if this is going to be removed from the agenda, he was out of town and wanted to have an opportunity to be present if it was going to go on. And he was told that it would not be on the agenda for those considerations. So the Police Commission would like to have an opportunity, or it is necessary for the Police Commission to review and to consider where we're going forward and how we're going to do that.
Could you repeat about what Ken's problem was? He wasn't going to be here tonight.
That is correct. If he's out of town, he could get here if he had to.
Yeah, but what was his concern? If it wasn't going to be on the...
Then he would not be here. If it was going to be on the agenda, then he would like to be here. So it's a courtesy as much to him as it is to any other reason. That's it.
So it was already decided that it was going to be taken off without the vote?
No, there was a request that Manager Ream had indicated that there were some things that had not been ironed out yet about Ken's accepting or not accepting that position as a lieutenant in the police department. Specifically, whether or not there's going to be a provision that allows the lieutenant at his option, for whatever reason, to drop back into the bargaining unit.
Okay.
Currently, the language appears to be somewhat ambiguous. Mr. Pellin had one interpretation. The township manager has another interpretation. And there has been an acceptance, apparently, by Mr. Pellin that he will accept the current language, which is unacceptable to our manager. The language is ambiguous, and the question is he going to have the right to drop back into the bargaining unit if he chooses, or is that simply something that is a management position? That management determines how that's going to happen.
Do you happen to know what the ambiguous language is?
Because I don't have that in front of me right now.
This is not what you would discuss in taking an item on or off the agenda.
Well, it is.
Don't discuss the item.
If we need to know why we're doing it, and
then you can vote the way you. But he's given.
So we shouldn't discuss it. Okay.
No. I'm saying he's given you a reason.
That's what you said, Uda.
But you're cross-examining him.
No, I'm asking for I'm asking for answers to know whether we should, because I was told that Ken was happy with the language. I mean, that he would accept the language. I was told that we were going to talk to him prior to this meeting to get that all straightened out. So the other part about looking at our other positions, that can be done whether he's promoted or not, unless we're thinking of getting rid of a position. Is that part of it?
That is certainly not something that's up for consideration at this point.
Okay, then I don't understand why we're taking this off.
Well, the question is whether or not the officer will be taking that position under management's offer in terms.
So we didn't get a chance to talk to him.
I did not say that.
Well, then if we talk to him, we should know whether he's going to.
It does sound to me like the commission requesting to take this off the agenda.
I'm requesting to take it off the agenda so the commission can properly address it.
Okay, let me.
All right. It's not from, this request is not from the commission itself.
From the liaison.
It's from the liaison.
So I'm just going to step this up. We know where we know where we don't stand. So with that, those.
Not clear where the liaison sets the standard.
I'm just going to ask the board to vote. We can always bring this up again in 2 weeks.
Go ahead.
So those in favor of removing the promotion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to removing?
Opposed.
Okay, note trustees Budney and Malvesto opposed, but that will be removed. And I have one more amendment to tonight's agenda. I'd like to first add action item number 8, the hire of Officer Dalpiaz, and
support.
Okay,
support.
It's kind of two-part, but
yeah.
And with that, I'd also like to move her as the first action item so that she doesn't have to sit here all evening and then show up for training tomorrow.
I support that also.
So it's a two-part. And, okay, so it's Supervisor and Trustee Budney. Those in favor of that action item and it being moved to the first action item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's okay, Deputy Clerk, it's okay if good enough. It's done.
I'm requesting removal of item number 7, purchase of open space property, based on incomplete information, incomplete numbers that are not consistent with one another.
Okay, moved by Trustee Malvesto.
Support.
Seconded by Trustee Budney. Any discussion? Well, we've just finished a closed session in discussion. Those in favor of its removal, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those in favor of leaving it on the agenda, please signify by saying nay.
A.
Again, the motion does not carry. It will stay on tonight's agenda. Other additions? Good gracious, let's see. Any other additions, deletions to tonight's agenda? I think we've pretty much rewritten the whole thing. Okay, with that, those in favor of approving, Madam Clerk?
I just want to underscore the agenda that you see before you that gets published in the paper is a guideline that announces to the public topics that are likely to be discussed. The approved agenda is up to the board at the meeting. Agendas are very often modified at this point in a meeting with items added and deleted, but it's not a reason to discuss the items. It's simply to place them or take them off the agenda.
There will be more discussion. Okay, well, thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? With that, the the agenda stands as amended. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation, the microphone, the podium over to Mr. Brian Kelly, an on-scene coordinator at the Environmental Protection Agency. This is, and he's going to be here. I know there are concerns for those of you who attended, those of you who are interested in our EPA, the public hearing on the settlement agreement and covenant not to sue. The public hearing was held in Trenton. Was it Wednesday night?
Yes.
Seems like a long time ago.
It was, yeah.
There appear to have been some unanswered questions. There's still some concerns from and some of the public present. So, Mr. Kelly, if you would, a quick synopsis of the purpose of the hearing, not what's going to be built there and what it's going to look like, but the purpose of the hearing was the settlement agreement.
The purpose of the hearing was the settlement agreement between Crown, MSC, the U.S. Department of Justice, EPA, and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality.
And if you would just, again, a synopsis of why we were there, what you basically your opening comments at the settlement hearing, and we'll open up for a couple of pertinent questions.
Oh, okay, so let me first step back a little bit and say that this site has been abandoned for basically 22 years and left to rot. And there have been a number of companies or plans, or even the city of Trenton was talking about taking possession of it, but none of those came through. None of them came through. And this first step of the settlement agreement with Crown and MSC, along with a Superfund listing of the southern section, will be the first step in what is going to be a very long process of getting the site comprehensively cleaned up. The Superfund process is a long process, but it's going to start pretty soon. Tomorrow, EPA is going to do an announcement that is the proposal for the Superfund list. There's going to be a separate comment period for that proposal. And currently, there is a open comment period for the settlement agreement with MSC and Crown. And the way the two work together is that, and it could have been anybody, it could have been whoever the developer was, the county chose Crown MSC. We went ahead and started working with them on this non-liable party settlement agreement because they did not cause any of the contamination. They are coming in as a developer, and they wanted to know what are our liabilities, what is the company's liabilities. So EPA, the U.S. Department of Justice, DEQ, sat down and said, if we're going to give you any relief from liability, we want you to do certain things, such as tear down all the buildings. That was one of our priorities, because it's full of PCBs, asbestos, oil, other hazardous substances. We also said, there are a number of ponds and lagoons outside. We want all of those pumped out. Those could be affecting the runoff to the Detroit River. EPA has identified runoff to the Detroit River as a potential pathway. There's no data that signifies that there is a tremendous amount of pollution going in. But we need a comprehensive study of that. And the settlement agreement gives Crown 18 months to do that. And it's very complicated. There's a lot of underground infrastructure, piping, outfalls, catch basins. All of that needs to get studied. But they will absolutely be subject to the Clean Water Act. And during any of that 18 months, during any of this process, if we find that there is an imminent threat to the community, we will act immediately, just as we did with the fire, just as we did with the drums and the PCB capacitors and transformers and the leachate that was going into Jefferson and the mercury spill. You know, the emergency response branch, we will be out there immediately if there is an imminent threat. The Superfund listing will follow on to and work in conjunction with the settlement agreement. The Superfund listing, which it's a long, worn path. Thousands of sites in the United States have been cleaned up. It's a long process, though. There's a remedial investigation. We need to know everything about the site. Then we need to know what is feasible to do, a feasibility study. And the public can certainly comment on that process. The municipalities can certainly comment on that process. I can't tell you what that endpoint's going to be, but I know that there is a process to get there.
Pretty much wraps it up. We could have closed that meeting Wednesday night.
How come we were there so long?
Yeah, well, we were there because a lot of people were there with obviously a different agenda.
And it is complicated. There's agreements with the state on the north. There's agreements with Crown and MSC on the south. There's the NPL listing, and it's very hard to get all that information together and into usable form. I think that the fact sheet that EPA has produced does a pretty good job of that. But if people have questions, the fact sheet has my number, email on it. Please ask me.
There are copies of the fact sheet on that roller podium as you come in if you don't have them. Also, there is the comment sheet you can use as a reference, but it also gives you the ability to go online and submit your comments that way. Close of business or midnight on the 13th? When is that?
It's midnight on the 13th.
Midnight on the 13th. So basically 48 hours. Can we open up to some questions? Are you willing to take some questions?
Absolutely.
Because I know there were some concerns. Ma'am, you please come to the microphone. Give your name and address, and he's got the answers. So, but
I hope so. My name is Susan Messler. I live at 19554 Keith Avenue, directly across the channel from this property. There is no one more interested in seeing those buildings coming down than myself. However, because of the nature of the cleanup, the nature of the toxins, the amount of pollution that has been there, I think it's very short-sighted to agree to this settlement. Having 18 months to study a problem of water runoff that we already know is an issue is inexcusable. There should be a plan for treating, retaining, and collecting that stormwater prior to anything being done there. Prior to a building being turned down or torn down, we need to have a way to make sure that those toxins are not going to make it into the Trenton Channel. That's my concern. I want to know how that's going to be maintained, how the safety of our waterways are going to be maintained during these 18 months.
So there's no evidence that there are significant toxins going into the Detroit.
Brian, could you get to the mic?
There is no evidence that there are significant toxins going into the Detroit River. It's been abandoned for 22 years. There needs to be a very comprehensive study done with all of the infrastructure, piping, outfalls. During that time, if any of the sampling does show that there are significant toxins going into the river, we will take immediate action.
Brian, do you think the 18 months is long enough? The lady indicated she didn't think the 18 was
too long.
No, you're misunderstanding.
Okay.
What I think is that nothing should happen until that plan is taken care of, until there is a way to effectively make sure that none of those toxins are going to end
Okay.
up in the water. That should be step one.
And we have certainly, recognized that there is a potential pathway of sheet flow or stormwater going in, which is why we have prioritized the ponds and lagoons outside that could be affected by the rainwater. Those are going to be pumped out, cleaned out within the first phase of the cleanup.
Quick question. I used to work for an engineering consultant firm that did phase 1, 2s, and additional environmental assessments at that site for the previous projects that you discussed. Does the EPA, is there a mechanism that the EPA or part of the settlement can access those studies for additional information? I know that they weren't done for this purpose, but the information is available.
If it is in the public domain or whoever paid for the assessment releases that, then that's a possibility. I know that the city of Trenton commissioned a BEA who they released that to us. We have some of the RIE, some of their work. So we have quite a bit of information. The Michigan DEQ, so the way the Superfund process works is it is delegated to the state to do the initial investigations. So they did a CERCLA reassessment in 2014. So that was sort of the beginning of this process, way before Crown, way before the bankruptcy, all that stuff. And then there was an expanded site investigation report in 2017. So those documents come together and are given to EPA, who then does the scoring package for the NPL. So I think that we have a considerable amount of information about the site. So the answer is some of that is yes.
Okay, so CERCLA, comprehensive
Environmental Response Compensation Liability Act, Superfund.
Okay, and then NPL, the National Priorities List.
Yes.
We've been in this sea of acronyms, but not everybody else here has had to endure that.
And PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, regulated by TSCA, the Toxic Substance Control Act. And so.
We have the expert here. Any other questions from the audience present? Mr. Clark. And Brian, if you want, we have a hand microphone you can turn on, and you could have the discourse.
No, right there you go.
There's two switches. For some reason, it needs to be on and on.
Clark Park Lane. What about the black hole that's up there? Has that been discussed or looked at or anything?
I am not aware of the black hole.
No, it's up on the... Pardon? Black Lagoon? Huh?
You're talking about the lagoon he's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, not the black hole as in space.
Well, you've been there, so you should know.
I do.
We're talking about the Eddy area, just about half a mile down from McLeod Steel.
Or the bridge.
Or the bridge. So in 2004, 2005, EPA did the first cleanup under the Great Lakes National Program Office, spent about $9.3 million, and removed 115,000 cubic yards of black sediment, goo, oil, heavy metals and PCBs. So that was addressed 2004, 2005.
Okay. Is it cleaned up then?
It is cleaned up. That excavation was all done, and all of that came out.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Kelly? All right, Mr. DeBussy.
Hi, everyone. Kyle DeBussy, West River Road. So there's several concerns with the settlement agreement that have come up. Susan, I completely support, mentioned the stormwater management. There was also, I know the Groseal Nature and Land Conservancy has also brought up the issue of asbestos dust. And the Trenton Visionaries Group has been pushing that the site be cleaned up to residential levels rather than industrial levels. So those are questions I have for Brian around that. But also if you could just explain to folks how even small amounts of PCBs or heavy metals getting in the Detroit River can threaten wildlife and people through bioaccumulation, and how that would be helpful. And then finally, just I know it's not on the agenda tonight. I wouldn't have pushed for it to have been on the agenda tonight if I didn't know the deadline was coming up on September 13th. But I'd really love to hear from all of you on where you stand on some of these issues, because I've got 183 Groseal residents here that are concerned about this stormwater issue. Thank you.
So, I did see the petition, as you know, and I don't think that the petition has really the accurate information in it. I mean, there's no analytical data showing that there are toxic levels of PCBs and metals just flowing into the Detroit River. There's no data that shows that. But it's certainly a potential. We don't know the full extent of stormwater management there. The settlement prioritizes what we assume would be the primary sources of contamination, which is the ponds and lagoons, and getting those all pumped out and getting all the liquid out. And then there's going to be, as I've said, a comprehensive study. Maybe it could be done faster. I don't know, but we felt like, from an engineering perspective, that it's 180 acres or 270 acres, depending on how you look at it, that there's just a huge amount of infrastructure that needs to be assessed and traced, and it's going to be a huge undertaking. So I absolutely want it cleaned up as fast as possible too. Runoff into the river, anything into the river, anything into the air. I mean, the site is obviously contaminated, which is why it's going to be on the EPA Superfund list, which is the worst of the worst. The cleanup level. I don't know what the cleanup level is, because I don't know what the intended use of the property is going to be. The Superfund process is long. There's the remedial investigation, the feasibility study. All of those things come into play, but I don't know exactly how will this waste unit be managed? How will soil be managed here? Those kind of details will all be worked out, and I certainly encourage you, to come to other meetings, and advocate whatever your position is. Bioaccumulation certainly occurs. I mean, I'm not a toxicologist, I'm a project manager, but, clearly there are, fish advisories about PCBs and things, because they bioaccumulate.
And then, sorry, just one final question. I heard you say earlier that it's appropriate now for the public and the township and municipalities included to weigh in on this issue. Is it appropriate to be weighing in on things like the timeline for the stormwater management report?
Whatever the public comment is, feel free to make it. I mean, we can certainly, talk about, this timeline, that timeline. I mean, whatever the public's comment is, certainly submit it.
Mr. Heil.
Bill Heil. I live on East River Road. This last conversation, as I was listening, stimulated some thought. We need to be concerned about runoff, surface runoff. But from what I've learned over the years, I think we also have to be concerned with the flow of water underground. And I haven't heard any comments about that. We have limestone down there, and that is porous and subject to erosion so that the openings can get bigger. We may not even know where that is going. But somewhere in the work that you're doing, I would hope that attention is paid to that, because it's possible, from what I have learned, and I'm not claiming to be an expert, that waters through that process could leave here and come up there and create vapors, which again contributes to bioaccumulation and long-term health hazards. It's nothing that's immediate like the emergencies that you deal with. But slowly over time, people can lose their health. They can have their own genetics changed from these kinds of things. And I'm wondering if there's some way to be paying attention to that, or if there's any thought that's being given to it.
So the expanded site inspection report, and maybe I can get you a copy of that, looks at all the different pathways. Groundwater, certainly a pathway. Groundwater contamination is certainly there. That will be addressed as part of the Superfund NPL cleanup. But
you're referring in groundwater to the subsurface. It could be 30 feet down. That's
So whatever the pathways, first you identify where the contamination's coming from, and then you trace it to wherever it's gone. So groundwater, absolutely a factor at this site. There's high pH, low pH, there's PAHs in the groundwater. The groundwater is terrible there.
And I also just want to, for the record, say I understand why when you start out you can say one thing, and as you're digging along, for want of a better term, find something else that changes the picture significantly. You don't know until you keep moving along.
It's, like I said, it's been 22 years of rot. This is just the very infant start of a comprehensive plan. And things may change, and there will be things that are discovered that we didn't know. I mean, it's 180 acres. If you add the north, it's 270 acres. We don't know what exactly went on there. And, how to project out everything in advance, like this is how we're going to end up. I mean, I would be foolish to just speculate, but I know that there's a process, and I trust in this process that it will work all these issues out. And there's always the question about, what's MSC going to do, and what if they don't do it? And the nature of the agreement is it is a covenant not to sue. And if they don't do it, then EPA and the Department of Justice can sue them to clean up everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Last second, let's close this. We've got to get on to a business meeting. Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry.
You talked about them, that they will be draining those pits. What's going to happen to that material? How will it be removed from the site?
Okay, for the record, her question was what will happen to materials moved from the pits, lagoons that we discussed earlier?
So anything that leaves the site, any soil contamination, asbestos, liquid, sludges, they all need to be profiled. What are their waste characteristics? And depending on that waste characteristics, they could go to landfill X, or they could go to treatment or stabilization. It really just depends on what the waste characterization is. But it is absolutely a very serious thing to do that waste is properly managed. You can't just dump that someplace or put it in the river. I mean, that's a criminal violation if you don't properly handle hazardous waste.
All right, with that, I'm gonna unless you have another comment, Mr. Kelly, let's close the presentation. I hope you are better educated, or you know more about the work that's going on there. Brian, thank you so much for.
Thank you.
We're spending a lot of time together, but thank you for coming and clarifying what apparently wasn't clear enough. And for those of you who couldn't make it last Wednesday, so there's the expert. They're doing their jobs. And
Brian, I'd just like to add that this last week was first of, I'm sure, many open discussions with the public. Be on the lookout for them. We will let you know when we hear about them and attend them. Get your questions answered.
And if you ever need me to come back, please let me know. Hopefully I'll be next door all that time.
We're working on that too. Brian, thanks again.
Brian.
That's another topic.
Yeah, the EPA fact sheet, again, there are copies of that on the whatever you call that thing back there.
Table.
On the table. Table. The cart. So if you want, it pretty much covers, in a nutshell, the background of what's going on. And it does give you links to go right online to make your comments. Please, if you have we have had good comments tonight. There were some, not many, good comments Wednesday night. But they want to hear that stuff. They need to hear that stuff. So if there's something like the emphasis on the groundwater, make your comments known. They will read every one of them, and they will act on those of substance. That was the terminology that I heard. With that, let's move on to our meeting agenda tonight. Public comment on tonight's agenda items. Good. Let's move along to the consent agenda.
I was hoping for a little break there. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yes, I have a motion to approve consent agenda 18-042, which consists of the minutes of the August 13th, 2018 regular meeting, the check register dated through September 7th, 2018. Committee member resignation from the Festival Commission. Island Beautification Committee resignation. Approval of closed session minutes. Update on status of case 17-008386-CZ and open space property negotiation. And number 6, approval of the closed session minutes, TPOAM negotiations.
Moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Supervisor. Comments among the board? I'll take just a second. The Festival Commission is Ann Darsniak. She was on for 20 years. Ann, thank you so much. I hope you've groomed a good replacement. And the Island Beautification was Colleen Gimple. Just a wonderful contributor to the community. They're both going to be missed. I didn't want them buried in a consent agenda, but thank you. And Colleen, thank you. Those in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. So thanks. Let's move along with action items. And Mr. Budney.
No, actually, we moved number 8 up to number 1.
Oh, that's right. Mr. Blatcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have the honor and the privilege to recommend that the Township Board
All right.
She is a first-class officer. We are bringing her back to this department. She had a year with another department, so we are pleased that she's coming on. She is familiar with the department. She is certainly familiar with the island in a number of different ways, not only having worked here but lived here. And she comes well recommended, and it was a tough choice when we had to choose between Susan and another hire, and we think that we're very blessed to be able to bring her on board now. And Susan, very, very much welcome aboard. It has been commented to me that you must be excited that we're having our first female officer coming on board the department. No, I'm not excited about that. I'm excited about a good hire who happens to be a female officer. And I am very, very pleased to recommend to the Township Board that we have Susan Delpiaz, and I'm going to make the motion to approve and accept the hire date of September 4, 2018 for Susan Delpiaz as police officer with the Groseal Township Police Department.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bletcher, seconded by Trustee Budney. Do we want to ask her a bunch of questions, make her life miserable, or just say,
I'd like to
Thank
get
you.
Chief Porcelli, if we could, for a moment, what he thinks about this.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to introduce Susan to everyone, and I think it's only fair that you have something to say here, and the mic's yours. How about that?
Sure. Just honored to be back in my home community and continue to serve this community and continue to serve my community. So I'm really excited to be back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Susan.
welcome back.
Couldn't have said it better, Carl.
Well, the vote may be a moot point, but we still have to do it. Those in favor of approving the hire of, I'm sorry, Carl, you can.
Moving to approve the hire of Susan Delpiaz, effective hire date September 4, 2018, as a police officer with Groseal Township and the Groseal Police Department.
Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I didn't think so. So, welcome back. She lives a block away from me. She's going to keep my neighborhood safe anyway. Silver F-150. We're at it. Okay, thank you. Okay, now the original number 1. Mr. Budney.
The original number 1. Yes, I'd like to make a motion based on the recommendation of the Airfield Commerce Park Manager and the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission. The Groseal Township Board hereby award the Building 75 roof replacement contract to Holbrooks Roofing Company at a project cost not to exceed $63,638 plus a 10% contingency of $6,363.
Second. There we go. Okay, so moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by the supervisor. And I guess we'll ask Mr. Duker to give us the background and the history.
Yes, we will.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Both action items, number 2 and 3 in front of you here today, are budgeted items in the Airfield Commerce Park budget. They were proposed in the April for a couple of our capital improvement projects. The first one that Trustee Budney presented is for our Building 75 in the Commerce Park. It's a 10,000 square foot building. We currently have 2 5,000 square foot units and their 2 tenants. It's been occupied almost for the duration of the build that was built in mid-'80s. It is believed to be the original roof on it. It is a torch tar down and stone ballast roof. They're very difficult to deal with. They have a layer of stone on top to hold the roof down and then also help shield some of the sun from that. So all of the stone has to be vacuumed off. We have to remove that layer of roofing underneath it. And then they'll inspect the insulation and the metal decking underneath that. Sometimes the reason for the contingency, it's recommended by the engineer. Sometimes when we get into the project, if there's been a small leak somewhere, the metal decking may need to be replaced in a few areas. There could be some corrosion, so that's to address that. It's definitely time to do this roof. I've had 4 leaks that have been repaired in the last 4 months. So it'll be good to get it torn off. Holbrooks is hoping to have it done here in the next month for us.
Questions, comments for Mr. Buddy?
I just have one. Sure. We've dealt with both companies that have bid on this. Last time we had this company, they bid and then ended up that their bid was quite a bit short.
Sure.
Had to redo, and actually what the second company bid was more in line with what had to be done. Are we sure that we're not going to get that same kind of switch on
Yeah,
this
you're
one?
referring to the east side of Hangar 1 project where that building had been pretty much abandoned for a period of time. I think there's a lot less surprises with this facility. I don't anticipate any issues like that. The other projects, the tennis center roof repair we did last year and all that, have been on budget and time with the company.
Did they do that?
Correct,
Yep.
Holbrook, yep. I have not had any other issues with the contractor other than that one project on going over on spending.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from the board? Madam Clerk.
Yeah, just a couple. I understand you're going to replace the roof, but you're not going to do another stone ballast roof.
No, it'll be EPDM rubber membrane roof. It's like a weld together, the white roof kind of material that you see there, and there does not need to be a need for stone ballast on top to hold it down. So it's much more of a torch down, like they weld it together in place roof, and we'll have all new gutters and downspouts and everything else that comes along with that.
Beautiful. And I notice here that we're holding the contractor responsible to lawfully dispose the debris. How are we assured that they are doing it properly?
I have requested that the township engineer do a kind of midpoint inspection. Once we get the roof torn off, come inspect the decking, the insulation, all that, and then a final. So I would ask that they, at that time, make sure they get receipts or whatever we need to make sure that's being followed through on.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Clerk. Other questions, comments from the board? None offered. Those in favor of, based on the recommendation from the Airfield Commerce Park Manager and the Grosse Ile Airport Commerce Park Commission, the Grosse Ile Township Board hereby awards a Building 75 roof replacement contract to Holbrooks Roofing Company at a project cost not to exceed $63,638 plus a 10% contingency of $6,363. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Duker. And let's see.
And do not move.
And do not move.
One down.
One down. Motion to approve based on the recommendation of the Airfield Commerce Park Manager and the Grosse Ile Airport Commerce Park Commission. The Grosse Ile Township Board hereby award the Fuel Farm Containment Wall Repair Contract to Serco, Inc. at project cost not to exceed $15,898 plus a 10% contingency of $1,589.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, second by the Supervisor. Mr. Duker, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Again, this is our second of 2 projects that we're putting in front of you today. Both these did come in on budget of what we anticipated when we were discussing it in April. This is our secondary containment wall around our fuel farm on the airport. We have 2 tanks in there, a 100 low lead octane tank for most like a 4-seat private airplanes that you see on the field. And we also have a Jet A tank that's there for more transient traffic or a larger jet. The tanks that we have there, they're an older style tank. They're single wall. A lot of the newer tanks are double wall and don't require to have a retention basin. But because these are single wall, if we have a leak, we have to have a wall that will contain that fluid for a set amount of time. So our current wall has been deteriorating over the last few years, and this past winter was very harsh on it. We have a couple of corners that are blown out to the point where I'm not sure it would contain fluid. The fire chief has inspected and obviously has some concerns too. And I'm not sure at the current state that it would pass state inspection next year. So this is definitely a repair that we have to get addressed. There is also a catch basin that will be inspected on the backside, and that has a valve control on it. So if we get a heavy rain and there's water that builds up inside that secondary containment, we inspect it and we can make sure we open the valve so it discharges properly to the stormwater. And obviously if there's a leak, that stays closed. And then it gets pumped down and relocated accordingly.
Okay.
Correct.
Questions, comments for Mr. Duker on this, on rebuilding this containment wall?
Just and again, it was part of the budget.
Correct.
It's something that we've been looking at for some time, and if you see it, you know it has to be repaired.
Correct. The only other note I have is, we only received one bid. There's not a lot of contractors in the area that do this kind of gunite work, that work with forms and that stuff. There's a lot of concrete contractors, but the gunite stuff's a little more specialized. We advertised it, and this was the only bid we received. So it is within our budget, and the engineer and I were comfortable with it. So we're okay moving forward. The commission was approved as well.
Yes, just to be clear, this is not Charles E. Rain's company,
Correct.
Serco.
Similar,
but not the same.
Other questions, comments? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the award of the fuel farm containment wall repair contract to Serco Incorporated at a project cost not to exceed $15,898, plus a 10% contingency of $1,589. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Thank you, Mr. Duke.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Nelson.
I would like I need a motion to request to advertise for bids for the ADA playground equipment for Centennial Farm Playground.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Nelson, seconded by Trustee Budney. Do you want to give the presentation, Ms. O'Farrell? This is a group.
Yeah, I think Kim should.
We handle the contracting, but we'll let Ms. O'Farrell explain the grant process.
Good evening, Supervisor and Board. In your board packet, I kind of supplied all the documentation that you need to go ahead and approve this for us to go out for bid. These are block grant dollars. It's money that we get to improve ADA accessible facilities. Last year, the project I took on was the ADA accessible door at the farm. This year, I'm choosing a playground piece, an additional piece to the farm. And I supplied all the pictures. It's kind of a merry-go-round, a fun piece that not only ADA children can use, but other children can use as well. So, any questions? Yes.
And it is grant funded.
Correct.
And not really a question, more of a comment. When we first did the playground at Centennial Farm, I hate to say just how long ago that was, and the equipment that we put in place, that back then we were still having, I think, CRC meetings in Centennial Farm Hall, and I think my kids were young enough to help select some of the equipment that went out that was finally chosen. That has held up really well, and every time we go to the farm, I'm always impressed just how many kids are still using that playground, are still really taking pride in that place. And now with the addition of the dog park and so forth, there's a lot of activity there, so I think it's really wonderful that we're adding to it, and so I want to thank you for doing that.
And just an update on the playground. It is in fantastic shape. We had an inspection done this year. We are replacing some of the chains and bolts out there. That's all been ordered. We're doing that in the fall. So, and again, this is just an additional piece. You were supplied the map of where it's going to go. It has been looked at by a vendor just to get an idea of pricing. So I would like to move forward with this, try to get this project done by the end of the year.
Other questions, comments from Ms. O'Farrell?
Well, I think what's also really neat about this is that it's ADA equipment that can and will be used by all children, and it's really important that the kids with the special needs are not always singled out,
right?
And that they're playing on something special for them, that they're also just part of every day.
Right.
Other questions, comments? Those in favor of, let's see, how do I word this? Allowing the rec director to advertise for bids for ADA playground equipment for Centennial Farm Playground, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered? Thank you, Ms. O'Farrell. Mr. Budney, now we're talking real money.
Yeah, yes, we are. Gosh, Lorinda, I wasn't going to have you get up unless we needed to.
Well, I'm just here
you're here. You're here. Thank you. Thank you.
Ready.
I have a motion to award contract bids for the Park Lane water main replacement to Bidigary Contractors in the amount of $976,844.53.
Second. With that,
history, as anybody certainly that has GI Connect knows, we've had a few water main breaks, mainly this summer.
Yes.
And I believe along the strip of Park Lane between Bridge and Meridian, 15 breaks. Actually, I thought it was 17, but 15 breaks in just one strip. So a number of them had been. Is that up on the?
It's on yours.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to know if the people
You have that
could
in your
see
board
it.
packet too.
A lot of them happened between Annette and Meridian. One of the reasons we want to do the whole section from Bridge to Meridian is putting that much new pipe from Annette to Meridian. We feel would cause from Annette to Bridge to be blowing out at a at a larger rate. Also, part of it is the water line along there was put in by probably Wyandotte Chemical to handle Hennepin Point, because back at that time there were no houses out there, and the pipe was a lesser degree than would meet our standards now. It has held up to some extent, but now with as we're putting bigger pipe in, as we have our problems with our PRV, we've had a number of breaks, and it has shown that we really need to do something with this section. These people, I can't remember if you had it in here, but they had like no water for like 13 out of 30 days.
Almost every single day in a 2-week period.
Yeah,
they had it.
which is just an extreme. It's an extreme problem, and that's why we're moving on it now. I mean, I would add that the DPS Commission is looking at coming up with a project to replace all our old water pipe. But you can tell just by this price how expensive it is. So. In a nutshell, a problem for a lot of people down at the north end of the island, and we want to fix it.
Lorinda, I have one question. Did
Mr. Nelson
mention the age of the current pipe that's in there that we're going to replace?
Old is it?
Yeah.
It's very old.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking back to the early 60s. Yeah. Pipes, not people.
Remember, most in the early 60s, this township was on well and septic.
Correct.
So
that's true.
There was a water main there. It might have been put in by Michigan Alkali. Who knows how far? But that was available. It was tapped into. So,
and that's another thing. I mean, they put this pipe in, and as I said, it wasn't up to the standard. And then when you put the development of the houses back there, Voight and Cardinal and all those, they all tapped off of that line. So it's now showing its age.
And we know that even the parts that didn't rupture were stressed.
Yes.
So to only do part of it, you're just kicking the can not very far down the field.
You're making that older portion smaller and getting more pressure. You can pretty well guess what's going to happen.
So, any other? I'm sorry, Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, Lorinda, I wanted to note and acknowledge how complete the package was. Everything from the project scope, the fact that it had been reviewed by the current contractor. They've offered to do some pricing for us, the source of funding for this. I received a phone call from Bill Kostick, and I can say, after speaking with Bill for 20 minutes, I am absolutely 100% certain this is the best way to do this project. The amount of material information that was provided by Bill and by you was wonderful. Thank you. It makes it very easy. And I have one other question before you leave.
Okay.
But on this matter, I'm very satisfied and very thankful. Appreciate it.
Madam Clerk.
Just a quick question. I was outside the post office when a couple of residents stopped me, and we talked about a number of issues. And one of them I'll ask off mic. It had to do with some past sewer litigation, but it raised the fact of construction management. And I'm wondering, how does the department now address construction management when we have these big projects like at West River Road or now this project?
That's a good question. So currently we have the Charles E. Raines Company. They're our project manager. They generally have somebody on site, but they also have an inspection services provided by Buccelli. And Buccelli's out there every single day. Also, Wayne County, they're there every single day watching what we do. So we have lots of eyes.
All right, good. Oversight is good. Other questions, comments? All right, I see none offered. Those in favor of awarding the contract bids for the Park Lane water main replacement to Bidiger Contractors in the amount of $976,000, $976,844.53, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Let's get this fixed. Thank you.
My other question on that, Mr. Supervisor, was just answered. I had a question about inspection. How do we know that this contract is being satisfied, that we've let on West River? And I understand that the response you gave to Clerk O'Connor answers that completely.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And we're currently milling the old West River Road. It's coming along quite nicely, I might add. I'm over there.
Let me know. Yeah,
I'm over there a lot.
Over there a lot. Okay, let's move on to Mr. Nelson, since you
one more time
checked out. Action item number 6, please.
I need a motion to authorize the Recreation Director and the Township Manager to seek requests for proposals, RFPs, from qualified individuals or firms desiring to lease the restaurant facility located at 25555 West River Road.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Nelson, seconded by Trustee Budney.
Kim, you want to come up again? Ms. O'Farrell?
Gathering up her data.
It's okay. She's got it.
If you have any questions, I've supplied you with numerous data. Lots.
It's not so much that we have questions, but a quick background for the public present and those watching, please.
Sure. The lease was signed back in December of 2015. I can only speak from when I was here. I can give a little bit of history, obviously, just from documents that were in my office. And Dale, if you want to jump in too, you were obviously part of that process. And when I came on site and accepted the position, obviously I had to read a lot, learn a lot, where the lease is, who's doing what. And also getting to know my neighbor. Smokies is located right next door to Water's Edge. And we have a great relationship with Smokies. I do. I know a lot of the managers do, and even the community does as well. So just where I stand with this, it's, we've had some struggles with them, but we've also had positive things with them as well. So it's basically seeing if there is another restaurant bid that could be out there that may suit the township better. Not to say that Smokies is bad. The relationship has grown very strong over this past summer. Communication is fantastic. But there has been some blurps in the lease agreements. There's been some negotiations back and forth that may not be in favor of the township. And our job is to do what's right for our residents, especially when it comes to millage money, tax dollars, those types of things. And that's why we are looking to seek a new RFP at this time. So, Dale, anything else?
Thank you, Kim. The only thing I'd like to add is we do have a good relationship, but all of our tenants, we've had some stresses with this facility and this business, and I think it's very important that after the years that we've had with the current vendor that we test the market, and that's exactly what this does.
Kim?
Any questions?
What resources will you use as far as posting this, and when would you think it would start, and what is it? How long would the term last before as far as accepting?
Dale, we had put the tentative timeline together. Dale does have that. We were working on that.
The timeline isn't in the draft RFP. It's about a little over a month, and it'll be scheduled in the News Herald immediately, and then word of mouth. I'm not aware of any restaurant trade journals, things like that, but we're gonna.
I'm just thinking that the News Herald is very limited
website.
As far as what it
We've
covers.
gone, and all the other paths. There's been a lot of inquiries, a lot of interest. We know word gets out, but not a lot of submittal. So we're going to do everything we can to get it everywhere.
And the whole idea of doing this now is the current contract runs out December 31st. So we want to have all this in place so that
we're ahead of the
can
game.
Continue.
We can make a decision. So the board can make. I can bring a decision from my commission where we're at. Everyone's asked me, are they staying or they're going? I don't have that answer. That's up to you. I can't make that decision. So
yeah, very much so.
We're just doing our due diligence right now with some of the kind of the negative things we've had with the lease agreement. And again, things are improving. They have paid their bills. I just got the September payment today. And again, I don't want this to be in any way, shape, or form a negative impact on Smokies because they are a very good tenant. Very, very good food, very good customer service. We worked together on those summer concerts, which all of you said were fantastic. So I don't want to leave the room with everybody thinking this is a negative thing.
This is just good business.
Correct, and that's what we're doing. So,
other questions, comments for Ms. O'Farrell? Okay, with none offered. Those in favor of authorizing the Recreation Director and Manager to seek requests for proposals from qualified individuals or firms desiring to lease the restaurant facility located at 25555 West River Road, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That does carry. Thank you so much. Where's my agenda? Okay, action item number 7, Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I am motioning and asking the Township Board to authorize the purchase of Lot 195A1A1, Supervisor's Plat Number 18, for $300,000 for the purpose of open space, subject to the following. The Walker Party purchasing a portion of the parcel, 100 by 179.50 feet, in the amount of $4,013.72 and attaching it to their lot number 36. The Walker Party to pay all fees associated to the split and combination. In the event the township would ever sell the parcel, the existing owners would have a right of first refusal to purchase said property, and further, to authorize the township attorney and township manager to act on behalf of the township at closing.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bletcher. I will second the motion. I would like to consider, and this would be a friendly amendment, adding a stipulation that a Phase 1 environmental evaluation be conducted. Do we pay for it? Would the sellers pay for it? Eventually the buyer pays for everything. Is that something the board is interested?
If we're going to go forward with this, absolutely.
I would accept the amendment and consider that well received.
Okay, so we will add that as a stipulation number last. If you would, please.
Absolutely, subject to a phase 1 analysis acceptable to the township.
Okay, with that, discussion among the board. Well, I will lead it off. We've been back and forth on this. We have open space money that the taxpayers entrusted us with to purchase open space. We've been sitting on a pot of it for some time. We've narrowed down our searches to those large parcels or parcels adjacent to large parcels so that we can have a large area which gives us a natural enclave. This meets that criteria. I have been watching this, and if we could only carve out just a little space we needed to continue Park Lane into the Manchester Woods, Wright Woods area, the larger parcel, I'd have been happy with that. That was not offered, but I want to be able to provide the connectivity from Centennial Farm through open space, through the Park Lane easement, into more open space for just whatever this board or a future board might want to do with connected open space. I think it brings a lot more value when it's connected, and this is the avenue we have to bring those major parcels together. Possibility for trails or equestrian trails or a park course or maybe some future board will look back and say they made a good decision. That's why I've been watching this. The price is the price, and we may not be interested in buying for that much, but that's where the price is right now. It's not way out of line. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm in favor of this purchase. I would like to see that added, and I think it will bring a lot of value to the community now and in the future. Other comments?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Malvesto.
I agree with much of what you said as far as the value to the community of a large piece of property, although I personally believe we have far too much open space, undeveloped property. We have probably more than most communities would dream of having. My concerns are this. There's been no market analysis done on this property, number one. The only valid document provided as far as the value to this property comes off of our tax rolls, which places the value of this property at just over $144,000. We've just added to this amendment or this proposed thing here is purchase is the a environmental study, but I cannot support spending an additional $150,000 plus of township money for a piece of property whose only, again, documented value is at $145,000. I think it's irresponsible of me. I think it's irresponsible of anyone else who may vote in favor of this. And don't tell me I'm not interested in what it is. If I went to an auction, I'm certainly not going to bid against myself for the item that I want to purchase, and it's essentially what I see is taking place here.
Okay, I'm going to just clarify. You're doubling the SEV and assuming that.
No, I am not doubling the SEV.
You get 144.
It has a sale value of $144,000.
Where did you get that number?
It came off of the tax rolls.
That's not a sale price. That's an assessed value. You took twice the SEV, which is SEV.
What I'm saying, that is the only valid document that has been provided to this board as far as the value of that property.
As the township's chief assessor, you're taking assessed values as opposed to market values. And I would say
there has been no market analysis done on this property.
Well, that's the real point. Tom, I don't want to. Are you finished?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Please. Okay.
The there's a lot to this, and I just have a real problem trying to understand how back in the 80s, supposedly a deal was cut to keep the taxes low on this property with this group because it was going to stay open space. So the supervisor back then, verbal agreement, and I'm going to say the end of his term, 1988, till today. Never been brought up to another board, never asked if they wanted to continue that. It's just been there. We've had reevaluations of all our property. That property was never brought up to what it was. It was kept at this lower value. The people owning it had no problem paying the low taxes. Now when they want to sell it, they say, wait a minute, no, this is buildable property. It's sandwiched in between the homes on Manchester and the cul-de-sacs and other open space property, one way in, Park Lane.
Halcyon Court.
But Halcyon Court has a sliver. I'd be surprised if anybody would allow that, but maybe somebody buy it and do that. But very hard to get in there. We don't know. All we've had, and we've done all this on our own, the sellers have provided us nothing as to, other than they want X dollars for it. They haven't shown any appraisal or anything of that nature that it's worth anywhere near what they're asking for it. We've gone out of our way to try and buttress this $300,000 because we want to spend it. And then part of the agreement is that we keep it open space, basically. If we want to get rid of it and to some developer or something, they want us to sell it back to them so it'll stay open space. It seems like they want the best of both worlds, and I don't see it. Basically, my real problem is, same as Tom's, we've been given nothing to document. We've been given opinions, one-page opinions with no backups as to how people have arrived at their dollar amounts. Before anything, we should at least have something to show that it's worth X dollars, something near what they're asking for. Secondly, assume that it is worth the $300,000. Why in the world would we go and bid the highest price when we're the only ones looking to buy it? If they want to sell it, we want to buy it, why would we go top dollar? I don't understand that. And with those answers, those questions just not being able to be answered, I would have to be against it.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may have a moment.
Mr. Bletcher.
The question of what is property worth is simply answered by having a willing buyer and a willing seller. The issue of whether or not we have had an opportunity, as Mr. Malvesto says, to go ahead and have documentation. Well, I think you can look at history as a teacher. First of all, this $144,000 number was done 25 years ago. I don't think there's a single person in this room or a single person watching at home that thinks that you can buy property for $4,800 an acre on Groseal. That's what that cost is when you divide that over 30 acres. $300,000 is what you're asking for. $144,000 is $4,800 an acre. That's simply unrealistic. Second of all, let's look at history. Open space sales in the past cost per acre. In 1998, the township paid $695,000 for 4 parcels on Horsemill. The total acres were 4.58, and the township paid $148,504 per acre. In 2004, various parcels totaling 64, we paid a total of $71,428.57 per acre. Park Lane vacant property in February of 2003. The sales price was $825,000. The township purchased 15.64 acres at a cost of $52,749 per acre. In Horse Mill, there were 2 vacant parcels that were purchased in July of 1996 for $780,000, 33.72 acres at a cost per acre in 1996 of $23,131. There were 4 parcels that were purchased again in 1995 for a total of $894,616, total of 39.72 acres, or $22,523 per acre. Meridian vacant property in 1996, 50.02 acres were purchased for $715,000. That was a price of $14,294 over 20 years ago. East River, there were 2 vacant parcels that were purchased in February of 1996 for $950,000, 73.5 acres for an average $12,923 per acre. History teaches us that this property is worth much more than $4,500 per acre. We look at the property that was sold on vacant land this year. Chicory, 1.76 acres for $60,000 or $34,090 per acre. There are currently 3 parcels of vacant land that are available, including parcel number 1 and parcel number 2 on Meridian, attached to the Groseal Golf and Country Club. Those are currently listed, each 2.2 acres, for $155,000 each, or a total of $70,454 per acre. And a parcel on Ferry Road right now is being listed for $98,800, 3.5 acres. The cost would be $28,148 per acre. And you're suggesting that $4,800 is the appropriate number per acre for 30 acres. What Wright Woods, which is what we're talking about, the 30 acres for $300,000 is roughly less than $10,000 per acre when we consider the property that is being purchased outright by Tim and Kathy Walker. So the actual cost is about $295,000 for 30 acres, less than $10,000 an acre. In addition to that, we get a very valuable connection between Centennial Farm and Manchester Woods. We have the commission chair and several other members of the commission that are here tonight that are prepared to advise us or to tell us why this was a unanimous decision by the Open Space and Greenways. And it's because it adds value to property. Groseal is unique. I spent the last 4 nights in northeast Dearborn, where you can reach out across a driveway and touch your neighbor's house. One of the things that Dearborn has that we do not have is Ford Motor Company. So we rely on our taxpayers to support programs like millage for open space and greenways. They did not do that in Dearborn, and frankly, it is an amazing thing to me that there are a number of people that are living so close together and seemingly enjoy it. I have people out here that come out and say, part of the reason I moved to Groseal is because I like the open space. I like the fact that it's not overdeveloped. I like the fact that I can go out and walk a trail. We have BPAC, which spends a lot of time and has spent an awful lot of energy building bike paths and walkways. And God bless them, that's good. That is a very good program. This is a very good program because people are able to go out there and enjoy the outdoors. They're able to go out there and enjoy open space, and they're able to go out there and walk and do the things that they're not able to do in a number of other communities because the community has not had the foresight to go out and purchase open space. Finally, a consideration from a historical standpoint is we have made these acquisitions. There's nothing left. You can go ahead and look at one project up at the north end by Bridge Road where Mr. Ponta has come to us and said, we would like to be able to have the township purchase that for X amount of dollars. and it's 7 figures. There is no way you can justify purchasing acreage for that kind of price. And after that, there's nothing left. We have some smaller lots. We have some things on the north end that might become available through tax sales or people just giving it up because they know it's not buildable from an economic standpoint. But at the end of the day, it is a quality of living thing that you have to look at going forward. And these citizens have said previously, we are going to support open space. We have $550,000 in that fund. Now, we have 2 choices: spend it wisely, looking to the future, or by God, let's give it back. But don't just sit on it. And don't tell me that $300,000 for 30 acres of this kind of property is way out of line and it's too expensive. And when I look at the historical nature of this, I look at what property is going for now, I look at what property has gone for in the last 25 years, I consider the fact that this agreement that was made was based on a consideration that that property would remain open space. Well, that was an artificially low price then that has only gotten worse with time. So $144,000 is a beautiful number to throw out, but frankly, it is ridiculously low. And I think $300,000, less than $10,000 an acre for what we are purchasing with the carve-out by the Walkers, as they have requested, and it's been offered to every other of the entities there, is higher than I would like to pay, but it's also reasonable under the circumstances. So again, I would support that motion and would ask that the board approve it.
Mr. Bletcher.
Counselor, I understand completely what you say, but repeating bad decisions made in the past doesn't make a bad decision today right. And I will repeat what I said. The only valid document provided to this board places a value of much less than $300,000. Even one document that was given to us assessed the value of that property at between $8,000 and $9,000 per acre, which would make the sale price somewhere between $240,000 and $270,000, which is $30,000 or $60,000. Now, that may not be a lot of money to you, but it is a lot of money to me, and it is a lot of money to the residents on Grosse-Ile that expect us to spend that money wisely. So you can use all the histrionics that you want to. It doesn't. What we did in the past doesn't make what we're doing today right. And the responsibility that I have to the township is to make a decision or vote based on what was given to me, not a supposition, not what happened 20, 30, 40 years ago.
I would add to, in brief response, add to that this negotiation has occurred with considerable amount of assistance and input from our township manager. You'll recall that Dale Ream was attached to, at one point in a prior decade in his career with Grosse-Ile, that Dale worked with the building department. And I asked Dale to come up with, based on his experience, what do you think a reasonable valuation of that property is before we even spoke to the Manchester Woods people or the Wright Woods people. And Mr. Ream looked at it and he said, let me run some numbers. Here's the property, here's the acreage, here's the amount of buildable lots. This is what a developer would expect to earn as a profit for that development before he or she or that entity would come forward. And his number was $300,000. And if Mr. Ream would like to address that, tell me if I'm incorrect or that we didn't have that information, haven't had that information for months now, I'd love to have you come to the microphone, Dale, and say what you have about that.
That was my opinion, yes, sir.
So to say that we don't have a document frankly, is putting a cart in front of the horse, because you don't need a document. You look at history, you look at what sales are going on the island, you ask your township manager who has a history in this area, what do you think it's worth? And then you go to the group and you say, all right, I want your final last best offer, because we're not going to spend an awful lot of time dickering over nickels and dimes. And I agree with you, $300,000, Mr. Malvesto, is a lot of money. That's a lot of money to me, and that's a lot of money to the taxpayers, but they have voted to have this property open space property I'm talking about, purchased for this generation and for future generations. And there is not another piece of property out there that even comes close to the qualifications here. Mr. St. Pierre is the chair of the Open Space Greenways Committee. And that commission has sat down and done an analysis on properties that are available on Grosse Ile. And they use a number of different criteria. If you have questions, you might ask Mr. St. Pierre to step to the microphone. But they look at what that property can be used for, what that can be used for by the community, what the value is in terms of connection with other properties, what it brings in terms of added value to the community. And they have ranked that, and this property is at the top of the list. Mr. St. Pierre, am I incorrect on any of that? You are correct. So I would call the motion.
It just seems to me that obviously the owners are missing the boat, because based on your numbers, that property is worth in the millions. And if it's that valuable, I would suggest.
Well, we have an offer on on the table of $300,000. We are discussing whether it's too much, too little. But in that case, that's the offer. That's the motion that's in front of us. I'm breaking up to a vote. So let me start. Mr. Nelson.
Yay.
Mr. Bletcher.
Yay.
Madam Clerk.
Yay.
Supervisor I. Mr. Budney.
Yay.
And Mr. Malvesto.
Opposed.
I want to thank everyone we really had good discourse on this. We did our jobs. We had different opinions. We're moving forward. Thank you, everyone. The motion carries. Well, with that,
where are we at?
Clerk's report. Madam Clerk.
In case you're wondering, I just let Mr. Bletcher know he left me speechless. That was a very good. All right, find my notes. All right, so back to elections. All the fun is to be had with elections. The last date to register to vote for the November 6, 2018 general election is October 9th. So I would like to say, if you are a new resident voting for the first time on Grosse Ile, please come visit the clerk's office to make sure that you are properly registered to vote. If you are the parent of a college student who is away at school, you still have time to make sure that they have their signature on file with the township or with the Secretary of State so that they can actually vote absentee at their campus, or whether they have to come home to vote the election. There are a number of get the vote out registration campaigns around the state. Some are actually having students change their permanent address to their dorm room. Not exactly an effective strategy. It's not something you would like your student to do, and we've been trying to discuss with some of these groups that this is counterproductive for the student because they now lose their ability to vote in their home district. There are proper channels to get your students prepared to vote absentee or to come home to vote. We want to make sure everybody has the right information, that everybody who wants to vote can vote. In the last election, we had some residents who hadn't voted in a long time and realized that that they were not registered here. So we do want to make sure that everybody who wants to vote can vote. Absentee ballots will be available the last week of September. Those of you who have already requested a ballot, those will be mailed out to you during that week. You can request to receive an absentee voter ballot by calling the clerk's office, by emailing the clerk's office, by stopping by the clerk's office. We can mail it to you, we can hand it to you, but we cannot give it to somebody else to bring to you. So it either gets mailed to you or you have to pick it up in person. Somebody else can bring in your application for an absentee ballot, but you have to be the one that receives your ballot. And that's as far as I have on election business. I know we had one of the largest voter turnouts that we've had in all my years as clerk in what is normally a very sleepy primary election. And so we are very much looking forward to a very busy and productive November election. If you're interested in working as an election inspector, we like to joke about the pole dancing that goes on, but we're really just poll inspectors. Please see Brian, and he'll get you set up with the training. You know, you got to lighten these things up, or you're going to, shoot yourself. I'm sorry? Thank you, Woody. I'll think of that when you're lecturing us a little bit later.
All right. Let's. You guys can bicker some other time. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move on to the Treasurer's Report. Trustee Budney is filling in.
I'm filling in, and I'm going to pass it down to
Handing
Ann.
off to. That's a chain of command there.
Just a reminder, the 2018 summer tax bills are due on Friday, September 14, 2018. If you did not get your tax bill, please call the Treasurer's Office and we'll get one to you. Options for tax payments are by mail, including online banking, in person, or in the Dropbox. We can still pay at the Groseal branch of PNC and Public Service Credit Union, and you can also now pay by credit card. Deferments for an extension of the tax bill due when available. Deferments must be made to the Treasurer's Office by September 14th. If approved, deferment will extend the September 14th deadline to February 14, 2019. And the attorney bills on the warrant list are Kotz, Steger, and Wysock in the amount of $567.74, and Thomas Assorti in the amount of $6,264. Thank you.
Let me just add something, since I do have some paperwork here. Our total funds equal $16,560,027.33. Interest earned $18,769.20, which is an average rate of interest of 1.16. As Ted likes to say, it's going up slowly but surely. And I do believe that the investment report is on the Treasurer's page. Yep. So if you want to look at the individual.
Well, thank you, Treasury staff. Thank you. Where's my agenda? With that, we'll move on to trustee and liaison reports. Mr. Malvesto.
I'm going to keep it very short tonight. Chief? No, you can stay right there. I was going to make an announcement tonight, but I if you don't mind, I'm going to wait for 2 weeks, because I think that it'd be nice to have Russ here at the time. Okay, so I didn't forget. I'd like to hold off. Just a quick update as I try to keep you up to date as what our fire department is doing. They've made over 400 calls to date. Those are EMS calls with over 70 fire calls. Very active group, multiple calls on any given night, especially over the weekend. Some very serious ones. As always, Chief, thank you to you and your department. You go over and above. You're always there when we need you. Thank you. I'm sorry? Yeah. And as far as bike path, there's really nothing to report this week. So, again, I'll keep it short. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malvesto. Mr. Nelson.
Poor Kim, she's got to come up here for a third time tonight, but she's here for an update on recreation.
I'm going to keep it short as well. It's been a long night. As you can see, this is the new book. It should be hitting the homes on the island, I would say, in the next 24 to 48 hours. So basically, this is it. Everything from events to programs to whatever's going on in Parks and Recreation is in that book. The other thing that I want to encourage people to do is follow the Grosse Ile Recreation Facebook page. We have jumped over 65% since I started the page. We are close to about 600 followers. And this is the most accurate information that I can get to the residents as fast as possible. So That is our Facebook page. If you're interested in changes to programs, people actually communicate with me through the Facebook. I respond very quickly on the Facebook. If residents are more comfortable going that direction, that's great. But again, a lot of people are starting to go to the social media. I keep my page very positive. Negative comments, please, if you have something negative, I'll take it, but please call the office. I really want to keep recreation positive energy throughout the island as we are moving in that good direction. So look for your book, and that's really all I have. Any questions?
Questions thank you. That's it. All right, very good. Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have the privilege of sitting on the Open Space Greenways Commission and the Police Commission. As far as Open Space Greenways, we still have a vacancy. Would love to have some applications on it. Please submit those to the Groseal Township Clerk's Office. It is a good commission to work with, and it is a lot of, frankly, satisfying and great moments out there when you get a chance to see all the recreational opportunities that we have with open space. Consider joining us. And again, thank everyone for their support in the past with open space, and my thanks to the board tonight for the support with this purchase. Second commission I sit on is the Groseal Police Commission. I'm going to reserve that report until after we have our commission meeting. It's scheduled for a week from tomorrow night, Public Safety Building, 7 p.m. I think it's only fair to be able to present my report after we've had the monthly commission meeting. And finally, on a very, very positive note following what Kim had to say, we had the pleasure tonight in a study session to look at the emergency planning that Chief Porcerelli and Chief Murdoch, Fire and Police, have put together in the event of a problem with any of our bridges on the island. They have been working diligently and have many dozens of hours with Wayne County, with the state of Michigan. And I just want to say that as a trustee, I expect that, but as a citizen, God bless you. You guys have done a lot of work. You've presented a very comprehensive plan. You're continuing presenting many more hours with that. And I think on behalf of a community, thank you, gentlemen, for the work that you're doing. It's really well appreciated, and great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bletcher. Mr. Budney.
Oh, unaccustomed as I am speaking tonight. DPS meeting tomorrow. We will be discussing our road millage, so I certainly encourage you to come and ask your questions and find out why we're doing what we're doing and what it entails. You'll be a more informed voter when it comes to the November millage, whichever way you vote. Sad note, we actually did have a ZBA meeting, and it's been canceled. So no ZBA this month. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. I'll take just a minute to. You have been it's been a very, very busy commission. Roads, water mains, sewers, drainage, spending a lot of bucks, but making the community better. Come by and listen to their meeting. Look at the stuff they're covering. I mean, that's what makes this community what it is.
And I would just say, in support of my commission, our last meeting, or which was our August meeting, we had the people there from Park Lane talking about their problem with their water main. And although we don't have a total project for all the old water mains, it is something that we have been talking about. And when we listened to them and saw their problem, we got right on it, and it culminated with this motion tonight. So it's a very good commission headed by a very good chairman and very good commissioners on it, and we certainly take the job seriously. But thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Buddy. All right, Township Attorney's report, Mr. Sorty. Mercifully, nothing? Okay.
Nothing you can talk about.
Mr. Ream.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to report to the board and the community. Next week, this is Wayne County Road construction paving schedule for the week of September 17th on Groseal.
Wayne County paving on Groseal. So, armed with that, pay attention.
Thank you, sir. Of course, this is weather and time permitting, subject to, I know this week the weather started out rough. That may have pushed them back already, but we don't know. Anyway, East River, Monday and Tuesday of next week, they will be doing roto milling. On Monday, it'll be from Stout south to Church. And on Tuesday, it will be from Groseal Parkway to Macomb. It'll be those intersection areas. And then the Wednesday and Thursday will be the preparation and the top coating paving of those two areas, and Friday's a makeup day. So Wayne County will be there doing East River paving repair next week, and this information is in the website, and we'll also do push notifications to remind everyone. So.
Dale, if I just might add to that, so no one gets the wrong idea that Wayne County is out doing our roads. They got some extra money this year for roads from the state, and they've just divvied it up amongst the various communities in Wayne County, and this is what they're doing for us. It's not something that is to be looked at as going to continue.
There's long overdue maintenance that has been on the radar for several years. Thank you.
But something's getting done.
It will take anything. We will take absolutely anything we can get.
Right, but it hardly sounds like they're addressing the worst areas of East River. So what was the reasoning for them choosing those sites?
This repair will not go wasted. Some of the areas are so bad, any repair would fall apart within a certain amount of time.
So it was.
So they're too bad.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and the dollars they had available for us, where could that be spent the best? That it would stay.
Gotcha.
Jim, one observation: there is no county road tax. There's
None.
tax or any other source from the county or southeastern Michigan. All road funds for Groseal roads come through sales tax on gasoline. Goes through the state of Michigan. State of Michigan then sends it out to the various counties. So any taxpayers out there that are asking, why are we just having this done for our tax dollars? Your tax dollars are not based on property. They're based on gasoline sales only. So there is no road tax.
That is a good point, and is lost on a lot of people because of all the Wayne County taxes we pay. Nobody in Wayne County pays a road tax. Their money comes from somebody else. If it didn't come down from the state, they'd have no road money. So that's part of the problem that we face.
Yeah, and that's the structure in Michigan.
That's
maybe
just
different in other
that's just the
states.
law.
Okay, well, it's my turn. Now that I'm working with and for the EPA, and it's been busy. First, I'm going to ask Angela, brief everybody on the upcoming DDA events. Kim updated everybody on rec, and those two kind of work so close together they make me nervous. But Angela has a lot of stuff going on for DDA, so if you would just give us another. Yeah, you can cover it better than I can.
First, we'll talk a little bit about what has gone on during the summer. We've had some sidewalk and roadway repairs. We kind of tagged on to some of the already planned for DPW repairs that were going on, and so Macomb Street just looks fantastic right now. They did a great job. We just completed the project. The invoice is on my desk, so it looks really good down there. We also made the effort to repaint and refurbish all the lampposts up and down, which is no small feat, 70 lampposts up and down Macomb Street. So those are all repainted, looking good. We, are constantly maintaining them and making sure that they're lit up and that everything's working accordingly. And so those are one of our focuses right now. At Lions Park, we worked with DTE and the neighbors, and we added electrical down there. We pulled electrical so that we don't have that mass lines every time we do an event or try to do something down there. So we're taking baby steps there, and we have plans to add a water line down there at Lions Park as well, so we can do some small things. And then we also started movie nights. So this summer we had a few movie nights on Fridays, except for the first one because that was rained out, and had a great time, great success. I mean, we had a minimum of 100 people show up at each. This last one we had just something a little different. We had a food truck down there based on the community survey. People were asking for tacos, so we gave them tacos. And I thought it was pretty incredible because on a Friday night, when you don't see a lot of people typically on Macomb Street, there were hundreds of people, and I mean hundreds, waiting in line for tacos and waiting for the movie. And we had a beautiful night weather-wise. It was really a nice sight to see. So I considered that a huge success. And then we're embarking on what I kind of call event season on Macomb Street, because we have Paint the Town Red coming up, then we have the Halloween event, we have Christmas and holiday things going on with the tree lighting, and of course Ladies Night Out. But I just wanted to share kind of the schedule a little bit of what's going on and what to expect at this year's Paint the Town Red. It will be Friday and Saturday, a 2-day event this year. Friday starting on the 28th. We're going to kick it off with recreation-sponsored pregame grilling tailgate down there before and after the homecoming parade, and then we encourage people to go on to the game. And after the game, the Rotary is sponsoring what they're calling Red Devil's Den. It's going to be entertainment, so we have live music and spirits under the tent, and then across the street, that's at Lions Park, and then across the street at the Fifth Third property, we're going to have another movie night for the kids and families, and then the recreation department is going to sponsor some more tailgates, so more hot dogs on the grill. On Saturday, we are going to try something somewhat different this year from last year, and we're going to have the Macomb Street Marketplace. So that's going to include any and all community groups and commissions. They can come down and set up a 10-by-10 tent. We do need pre-registration so that we can plan for the spacing. And then we're also inviting any Grosedale resident who might be a crafter or a DIYer or might do woodworking or have a business out of their home. They can come down pre-registered, come down and set up a 10-by-10 tent and kind of create a little vendor fair. So I've had some good success, some good response on that, but if anyone's interested, I would encourage them to reach out to me. Just send me an email at angelas@grosedale.com and I'll send you the registration information. It's also online on the website. And we're going to have fun things down there for the whole family, bounce houses, face painting, petting farm, a lot of similar things that we did last year. So we will also include all of the Macomb Street businesses in a scavenger hunt type of situation that will involve referral cards and sweepstakes and all kinds of fun stuff. So you can find out more information coming down on Saturday from 11 to 5. At 8 p.m. there will be a glow roll, and from 4:30 to 11, again, we'll have the Red Devil's Den, and there's several entertainers, spirits, 1 or 2 food trucks. We were counting on the Knights of Columbus. We're hoping to participate, and they're just not able to pull it together this year, so we're going to try again for another event. So we're bringing in a couple of food trucks so that we have food down there, and just lots of good fun, lots of good community fun, getting people together, again, just rallying and getting people on Macomb Street. That's the goal. So more detailed information, if you're looking for it, is also on the website. It's also on the Facebook page, Meet Me on Macomb, Downtown Groseal, or on the Facebook page for Paint the Town Red. And I want to stress this is a event that is planned in conjunction with the Rotary Club and with Groseal Recreation and the DDA. Any questions?
Covered quite a bit, Angela. I must
try to keep it quick.
These postcards,
yeah.
There are a stack of them on the table thing back there, and it lists some of the things she just covered. So pick one up on your way out, put it on your refrigerator magnet. Everything you need to do, we can do right here.
And if you're not here at the meeting, you can get one at one of the shops on Macomb. Several of the shops have them down there, or at Township Hall.
You've been busy. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Okay, wrapping up all the stuff that's gone on, some of the stuff that's gone on since the last meeting. The garage sale was apparently was a huge success. Remember in the previous meeting, there were like 90 people registered, and I said, you'll have 150 before the event. She only got up to 136 registered, and there was probably another 100 who weren't registered. Everybody, no problems. Everybody had a good time. Margie's doing a great job orchestrating that. Yesterday, we had the Grosse Ile Historical Society Lighthouse Tour. We were sold out for that. Even though it was miserable weather, we still had a full house. We could not get any more tours in the time allotted. My thanks again go to the Manns and the Stanko families who allow visitors to transit their lawns to get to our lighthouse. We will be painting the lighthouse possibly this fall, maybe next spring, and we're considering pursuing a grant with the lighthouse. I forget the full name of it, but it's a tedious process. We're going to give it another try. Hazardous waste, for those of you planning on getting rid of stuff, the next hazardous waste, and this is a bit in the future, it will be at, it's November 3rd, and it's at the Wayne County Community College District, the one on North Line Road, not that far away. They have a huge parking lot, and they really set up a well-oiled machine to handle your hazardous waste. Please save it till then. Don't throw it in a dumpster, or just don't take care of it properly. I got this today, a fundraiser cruise for Outback Wildlife Rehab Center. This lady is picking up where Betty King, and I think most of us remember Betty King, anyone of a number of names. I just remember the bird lady. If you found an injured animal, she knew how to either nurse it back to life or make the proper decisions. This lady is taking over with that responsibility. Obviously, there were no tax dollars involved, but it costs money to do that. So we'll get this invitation. It's on September 21st. Make sure I got that date right. And a Diamond Jack. It's fun to go on a nice cruise anyway on the Diamond Jack. So I'll get this published, and consider it'll be a fun evening. If nothing else, it's a boat ride and a sunset, and cocktails may be involved. Let's see. More good news in recent past. In the same weekend, Ford Yacht Club here on Grosse Ile hosted the national championships. It was what's the term exactly? It's the class championship sailing. Anyway, that's two boats, 7.9 meters, 24-foot long. They were all made in Holland, Michigan. They're all over the country. We had 26 boats registered. From the farthest boat came trailered up from Bonita Springs, Florida, and raced Friday afternoon. Race on a snotty morning Saturday, canceled the afternoon event and canceled Sunday. Nobody got hurt. A couple boats got broken, but everybody loved coming to Grosse Ile. They liked the club, and some of the skippers who had done most of their sailing on the Cumberland River, some of those impoundments. These lakes are challenging. I try to do it with my southern accent. I had no idea what to expect. And anyway, Kerry Deal finished third overall, a local resident. It was a lot of fun. It worked like a well-oiled machine, a lot of work, and Grosse Ile left a good impression on all these visitors. The EPA settlement, Mr. Budney and I were there at the settlement hearing. It was what, about an hour of information packed into 3? Mm-hmm. Mr. Kelly's presentation was good. The staff attorney, Mr. Kaiser, gave an excellent presentation. Unfortunately, a lot of residents weren't interested in that. They had their own ideas of what they expected, and when that didn't happen, it didn't go well, which is why I invited Mr. Kelly to speak to us again tonight. Remind you one more time, your written comments to the EPA are due by the 13th of September. We've had some good comments. The concern for the wastewater runoff. I know Mr. Kelly is more interested in that now, and he'll make sure that that is watched closely. Another recommendation we want is a hotline. If somebody sees something that appears to be improper, a single phone number to call. And you have that number for me? Well,
It's 800-292-4706, and the acronym PEAS, P-E-A-S.
And that stands for?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That is, if you see trucks coming out of the site, if you see runoff, this is the number I've been given.
Thank you. All right. That was one of the concerns, and I will make sure that's posted apparently. Okay, my final, well, I've got two other missions I'm on. Chief Murdoch and I are going to be, let's see, tomorrow I'm spending it downtown at the Guardian Building regarding Mrs. Dingle and Wayne County Economic Development on the project over at McLeod. McLeod is the biggest thing going on now. What's going to be happening there? Mrs. Dingle is involved and wants to, again, through the federal side, make sure everything is done properly, so I will be present for that. And then Thursday, Chief Murdoch and I will be with Wayne County Department of Homeland Security, their emergency management, working on our emergency plans. The chief is always looking at the weak links in our ability to respond. And we'll be working on that and getting answers, hopefully laying out plans, contingency plans for who knows what could possibly happen in terms of emergency planning. My final mission is working very hard, and I want to thank the board for passing the resolution at the last board meeting to keep the emergency responders, the on-scene coordinators from the EPA here on Grosse Ile. We passed the resolution. The Downriver Community Conference passed a unanimous resolution. Commissioner Palmara, let's see, when did I go to? Anyway, earlier, middle of last week, took a resolution to the Wayne County Commissioners. That was passed unanimously. All of the county commissioners are willing to sign on as co-sponsors. So we have a lot of support for keeping those the on-scene coordinators right here, right where they're needed. And the McLeod site is the largest environmental cleanup site in the state of Michigan. We don't need the EPA on-scene coordinators, the first responders, the guys who see where the problems are. We don't need them in Ann Arbor. We need them right here where they can have eyes on the situation immediately. That cleanup's been going on for a long time. The one comparison is, imagine them trying to get to an incident leaving Ann Arbor on a game day. They will be here promptly the next day. So we really want to keep them here. They're an asset. They're needed here, and it's just the right thing to do. So that's one of my other projects. With that, heck, I think I'm done, except that if you have anything, if you haven't read this yet and you're still interested in, again, McLeod, the settlement, there's a stack of these, or there were a stack of these, Mac. Pick one up, read it. It gives you websites, it gives you names, and it gives you the ability to get your comments in. That concludes my report. Thank you. And thank you for that information, ma'am.
And Brian, I just emphasize one more time, this is just the cleanup. It has nothing to do with what's going to happen with the property once it's cleaned up, how it's going to be run. That is not part of this. So if you put a comment in on that, they're not going to address it because EPA, MDEQ, they don't have anything to do with what happens to the property. That's a separate issue, separate question. This is just on the cleanup.
Thank you for that clarification, because obviously that was not clear to the people present Wednesday night. Okay, with that, public comment. Mrs. Walker.
Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. Our sixth season of We Kayak is over.
Kathy, excuse me, could you just take the magazine off?
Oh, no, I want that there. That's the whole point.
Well, it's kind of drowning out your, you can put it back.
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
The whole point is, I'm hoping that picture, or a picture of a kayaker, is going to be on this next time.
Okay.
And I know this is a lovely little girl and wonderful, but we want a kayak. We'll play with that. Okay. Just because. Anyways, our sixth season is over. We had 15 scheduled paddles, 12 of which occurred. We had three out of the last 4 had to be canceled because of weather. And I just received something just a few minutes ago of a young man who his body washed up. He didn't wear a PFD on Lake Michigan. And, this is what happens. That's why we are so safety conscious. But we canceled them because of weather, and that's just the way it goes. Anyways, I would like to thank RKC for their complimentary guides that they send with us, and I don't think people realize they do this. We don't pay them. They're trained people, and they come whether they have renters or not. They come for us, and I think that's great. I'd also like to thank our rec director, Kim O'Farrell. She has been a delight. To say she's a delight is an understatement. She's so helpful. She's so willing to work. She called me right after it ended. Next year we're going to do more, and we're going to do this. She's been terrific and cleaned up the place. This year was just like there was never anything wrong. Nobody had a problem with anything. It was just terrific, and I can't thank her enough. She's made a complete change. And, of course, the board for your support. This is 6 years now we've been doing it. And every year it gets better, and our 7th year is coming. It'll be bigger and better, and we'll have an even better blessing of the fleet. Unfortunately, because of so many people have passed this year, it's going to be quite a somber one. But anyways, I thank everyone for We Kayak because it was huge. Our last day, we had 17 people. Just everybody was happy. It was a happy, happy time, and I can't thank you enough. Okay, and remember, we want to be on that picture next year.
Kathy, I want to thank you for all. I don't know if anybody ever realizes how much time this lady puts in on that We Kayak. And the kayaking that goes on this island has a lot to do because of Kathy Walker. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you. It's a good exercise. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kathy. Looking for hands. Mr. Heil. Did I miss someone? Probably.
Brian, is that visible? Have I done that well? Is it?
Yes. Yes. Bill, I don't know if we can let you talk without a tie.
Maybe a necktie party, right? What I've shown there is a way for people out on watching this to see an address where they can send their comments on the McLouth circumstance. I was there too, Brian.
Spoke well.
Thank you. It's important that Grosse Seal be aware of what's going on there. The events that take place in the restoration of that property are significant to our quality of life. We were provided materials to review there, and there are concerns that will be addressed. But we not only have to be concerned with how the property is used, but if it's a logistics terminal, we have to be concerned about the way traffic generated by that is monitored, because we have to live. We have to get on and off of this island reliably. There's opportunity. The Grosse Seal Civic Association, we've published something just late today. You can look at that. It helps organize your thinking. This address, that I hope you can see that clearly, will tell you how to make your comments. Stay informed on this, if you would, and I think people need to remember these other residents had a great deal of anger. I was surprised at how strong it was. This kind of an event is very significant. There's no one organization that is going to make things happen. A lot of people have to cooperate. Some people are going to hear things they don't want to hear, and they're going to be angry. But the point of the matter is that somewhere within that, they've got to get a grip, whoever they are, on that anger and say, we have a problem that exists, it has existed, we're going to have to find a way to cooperate with each other to resolve it. And we have a vested interest here on Grosse Seal in what those resolutions are, because it impacts our quality of life. I'm not only talking about how to get to work, how to get over to a hospital in case of an emergency. If there's a lot of ships blowing their horns at 2 in the morning or stopping us from going to work, that's going to hurt us. We have concerns about a lot of different things, and we're going to have to keep a calm head and work for our own benefit. And we have rights, and we're going to have to be informed about how to properly proceed to assert those rights. So we've got to study this issue. We can't get our book together at 3 in the afternoon of the week on Friday of the Monday before. I said it backwards. You know my concept. And so you have opportunity. Read what we have to say. See how you can respond. I think it's important that we do that.
Keeping in mind that these comments are about the settlement agreement, about the cleanup and your concerns with the cleanup. What happens in development, that's way down the road.
I'm going to add something to that. I'm not talking about that concept. I'm talking about our attitudes and the way we look at the thing all the way through the process. What you say is correct. What the people from the EPA are doing procedurally is correct. But the processes of understanding what's going on with this environment and what it takes to understand it and to remediate it are very, very complicated. I mean, I can speak of my own personal experience because I started looking at Gibraltar Bay, and I was concerned about getting things cleaned up, and one thing led to another, and I started reading about the environment and what's going on with this airport. But before I really had an ability to talk to anybody, it took me almost a year and a half of reading and talking to people. The point is that when expectations aren't equal is when people get hurt. And that's what I'm talking to. I'm not trying to just clarify one issue about the importance of a meeting. I'm talking about a process literally over a long period of time. I just need to make that clear, Brian.
Yep, okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Heil. While we're on the subject, Mr. Dubusse, we'll keep some continuity of thought.
Hi, everyone. I know it's been a long night. I really am thankful for everything you all do, and I don't envy your positions at all. I want the EPA here. I was really grateful to have Brian Kelly here, and I appreciate you doing that last minute. I didn't want to be here last minute. I honestly didn't know as much as I knew about this site until that Wednesday meeting. And after that Wednesday meeting, I realized, hey, the deadline's September 13th. It's true, it's a long process, but this is an extremely important step in that process from my understanding. This is an agreement that they're going to be held to for a long time. And we all know the history of the Maroons. They're saying they're going to turn over a new leaf. I'd like to believe them, but I'd rather trust and verify. And a big part of that is making sure this agreement over the cleanup is ironclad. I really wish that something would have been added to the agenda tonight to give you all an opportunity to weigh in, because that's what this is. Brian Kelly was here tonight. He gave us great information, but that's not his role to push the EPA. The EPA did its job. They negotiated as best as they could with the Maroons. Now it's our job, first as citizens, as we did. Over 200 Grosio residents have commented on this petition that I've told you all about, but I was hoping to come here tonight because you all have resources that I don't have. Brian Kelly said that some of this stuff might be inaccurate. That might be true. Maybe you all can help me get that stuff that's accurate, you know? And weigh in with substantive comments on this before the deadline on September 13th. The one I know the best is stormwater runoff. Believe it or not, my father's a shrimp farmer in Guatemala. That's where I grew up. So I know even small amounts of PCBs, heavy metals, they add up over time in the water. And then that water gets into birds and a bunch of other things, and yes, in us. So even if there's a little bit of coming out of that, that's a huge deal. So I'd really love if the township would weigh in on that. I know there are several others here tonight that have stayed all night long to try and say something. I encourage them to comment as well. But again, I just really would love if the township would weigh in. I will also say that Representative Darren Camilleri, they haven't submitted their comments yet, but I know he will be submitting a comment that talks about stormwater runoff, the dust, the PCBs, the residential stuff. Our future Senator Stephanie Chang will do so as well. I think it'd be really great if the township did so as well. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dubusse. Am I missing someone? I would never miss Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark. Kyle, thank you.
You want cheap gas, about the middle of West Road, it's $2,599. $25.99. Here on the island, it's $2,799. Okay, you got bottled water, it's got toxic levels. The only one I see is Iron Mountain, or Ice Mountain. Robert Mueller, New Orleans Prep School. Geez, look who he went to school with, John Kerry. Google goes to all communist China, agrees to state-controlled search engine and crushes human freedom. Geez, isn't that cute? More studies confirm the link between childhood vaccines and autism. Millions study shows DTT intercides linked to autism in children. Here's one for women. Monsanto chemicals make their way to 85% of the personal hygiene cotton products. And sugar Sugar gets into probably, let's see, a common 20-ounce sports drink, 32 grams of sugar. Coffee can, 25 teaspoons of sugar. Vitamin water contains 32 grams of sugar. That's 8 teaspoons. A single cup of low-fat yogurt contains 47 grams of sugar. That's 12 teaspoons. So if you drink that stuff, have fun.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Officer Counts.
Thank you. If you could bear with me, I wasn't planning on addressing the board tonight. However, some comments I heard at the beginning of this meeting have me quite concerned and somewhat frustrated. The liaison of the police commission, Mr. Bletcher, had mentioned that they wish to delay the promotion of Sergeant Pellin to lieutenant. I'm somewhat perplexed by this because this is the issue of clarifying the language of our contract was addressed 2 months ago by the police commission. They asked for myself and the township manager to work on that and come up with an answer. It's now been 2 months. I've reached out multiple times and didn't get the courtesy of a response. I can produce the email chain, and I'd be happy to do that for the board. In fact, as far as that goes, I've made attempts in the past. In the last couple of years, we've had pretty much nonstop litigation between the police union and this township. I've reached out and tried to meet with the board. With the exception of Trustee Malvesto, no one on this board has ever reached out to talk to me about the issues facing between the township and the union. We're about $100,000 right now in legal fees for the township addressing these issues, and not, well, like I said, with the exception of Mr. Malvesto, who attempted to coordinate a meeting amongst us all to discuss these issues. No one's reached out and tried to even discuss these things rather than go right to attorneys and right to court. It's a frustrating circumstance. And now that I'm hearing this language is a barrier to promotion and it needs to be clarified prior to promotion, it's been brought to my attention that they wished Sergeant Pellin to basically sign away some of his rights under the contract in order to move up within the department. If that's accurate, I can assure this township board you'll be met with an unfair labor practice lawsuit immediately. Adding contingencies to the contract in order to advance within the department is an unfair labor practice. And as you can tell, when I was here last time, I mentioned the board. You had to comply with the FOIA laws. The board failed to do so. We filed a lawsuit. That's not how I wish to proceed in these things. I would like to discuss issues. However, it's a one-way street. Every time I've reached out, it's fallen on deaf ears. I'm done reaching out. If this board would like to meet and like to hear the union standpoint on some of these issues that are going forward, because so far you've only heard one side. And I have a feeling a lot of you are not getting accurate information because the decisions coming out of this board are mind-boggling. So for that to occur, it kind of leads me to believe that many of you are not getting accurate information because I know most of you are intelligent people. I wouldn't expect the decisions that are coming forth from this board. So that's why I've offered to get together and discuss these issues without attorneys. Because last time I was told that we couldn't do it without attorneys present. The township has spent plenty on attorneys. We can do an off-the-record meeting. You don't have to discuss anything. You don't have to say a word, Ms. O'Connor. Not a word. You can sit and listen.
You can't have an off-the-record meeting with the public body.
Okay. I can say things. You don't have to respond.
We can't even meet together.
We still can't have the meeting.
Can't have the meeting. I'm sorry. Not that we don't want to. And we can't talk to you independently either, because you represent a union, and independently we represent.
We're not going to negotiate.
We can't do that.
There would be negotiation. I'm not looking for negotiation. I'm looking for understanding. There's not a negotiation.
Talking one-on-one with a trustee is also not a good practice.
Okay, well, I guess we can keep employing labor attorneys. Because in the past, the union and the township has always sat down and discussed issues. When there was an issue, we discussed it, and we figured it out. But since this board has been seated, it has been labor attorney after labor attorney after labor attorney. There is no communication. So I've done everything I possibly can to save the taxpayer some money. Ms. O'Connor, I love your remarks. I love your little smiles and head shakes, but it doesn't serve anyone any good. I really don't appreciate the disrespect. I've approached this board and been nothing but respectful.
And I'm sorry about that. I don't like the disrespect you're showing to this body as well. So I think that's probably a two-way street. My giggle is that you continue to attack us verbally.
I've attacked
when
you?
I believe we really are trying to work within our rights and our means to find solutions.
Okay, well, two years ago, we were all able to discuss issues. We're all able to come to understanding and save taxpayers' money. That appears to have fallen apart. Like I said, this current issue that's now holding up the movement within the police department we've been aware of it for 2 months. I've reached out multiple occasions. The commission has made a decision on this already. The group tasked with making recommendations for the police department. They made a conditional offer of promotion to Sergeant Pelland. He accepted that conditional offer. Again, a head shake. That is the fact.
The commission does not act for the township board.
Did I say they act for him? I said they make recommendations.
But you're making it sound like that's a fait accompli. The commission makes the recommendation to the board. The board gets to decide whether or not to act on that decision. Just because the commission recommends one thing, as you saw today with open space, does not make it a thing that is just going to happen. It's something that the board will discuss and work through. So just because a commission, the police commission recommended something, does not hold our feet to that fire.
Let me just, you've covered a lot of points, and I would like to see those in writing, just bullet points, and we can address them one at a time. Send them to each of us. Send them to me. I'll get them to each of the board members. We'll look them over, and where we can find common ground, we can find common ground. Where we can't, we stay in the litigation process, which is kind of where we are. But you covered a number of points, and I couldn't write notes fast enough. Please?
It'd be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, as the liaison of the Police Commission, I'd like to clarify one thing. The offer that was made to Lieutenant Pelland, and I don't want to address an awful lot without Ken being here. I've known Ken, I've had the pleasure of knowing Ken for a very long time. I consider him to be a very good officer and an even better human being. So what I say with some trepidation, but the issue going forward is language in the agreement that says the officer may be returned, the lieutenant may be returned to the bargaining unit. The question that has come to Manager Ream is whether or not that means that that language is at the discretion of management and the employee or management. The language that there is ambiguous, with all due respect, Mr. Counts. It was ambiguous 2 months ago when we discussed it. We were advised that Mr. Pelland was going to take the position. He was asked by Mr. Ream, what do you understand to be that language to mean to you? And he says, it gives me flexibility so that I can elect to go back to the bargaining unit. The language that is employed there, the language that was agreed upon, was to allow management to return him to the bargaining unit. There is nothing in that language that says that the individual has the unilateral right to determine that. And if I'm understanding Mr. Ream correctly in our conversations, that has been a repeated point throughout those discussions. Who has the right to return to the bargaining unit? Is it the employer that tells the officer, who is a member of management, the lieutenant as a member of management, you have to rejoin the bargaining unit? They have the right to do that as a demotion. But to say that it is conditional, that he waive a right, that right was negotiated by, for, and on behalf of management. The union does not get to determine nor dictate the terms of an officer taking a management position. It is as simple as that. If he wants to take the position, it is at will, and it is with the understanding that you can be returned at the discretion of the employer to the bargaining unit, but you don't get to come on board where we invest
that
hours.
language would not need to be negotiated. Then you automatically have the right to return an employee.
We do. And the question is whether or not...
It would not need to be in the contract, period, if that were the case. It was negotiated into the contract on behalf of the employee. That's why it's in the contract, because you can fire an employee.
It doesn't say the employee.
It does not say management either.
It says can be returned, and who makes the decision to return the employee? The employer does.
Employee may make the decision to return.
The idea that the union is going to go ahead and dictate job security and benefits for a union-free position, a position that is a management position.
Our contract addresses that position. That is what our contract says.
We have a difference of opinion, and that's why
again, we attempted to address 2 months ago that I did not get a response back from. Again, we are right here, and now you have a response. Didn't 2 months ago, but now you do.
Let me ask Mr. Ream, have you responded to that?
We've had discussions. I have not finalized things with Mr. Pelland because of the conversations that took place this past week.
I did not get a response.
Have you
I'll
talked
happily
to Ken?
produce the email chain. I have.
Did he tell you that he had spoken with Dale?
I've emailed you. I did not get a response. My last one was either agree, disagree, or just say the language states as it is. There was no response. I will bring the email chain here.
I asked for, you've lodged your complaints. You're going to, when convenient, get those in bullet point writing, and we'll get a chance. We'll go over each and every one of them. I don't want this tied up in litigation any longer than necessary either, but we seem to be speaking in two different dialects here, so I'll look for your written request, and we'll address them.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Officer Counts. Other comments? Mr. Lemoyne.
Good evening, thank you. Appreciate you opening up the door for a Q&A session, so hopefully that continues with me, and I'm not treated any different. I've been reviewing the check registrar for a while. If I'm looking for more detail behind miscellaneous expenses, how can I get those for those payments?
Contact me.
You can give me what the receipts were? And how long do you need? Like a week, 2 weeks?
FOIA. You'll get your 10 days. With
Will FOIA? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. Other comments? We've got a lot of work left to do after this if we so choose. So with none offered, we will stay in session and go to discussion items. Chief Murdoch.
Good evening. Over the last few years, fire department's been looking at putting up a outbuilding or garage as we speak to store equipment that's been left outside over the years. We're at a point right now that we're storing probably about 5-6 items outside, trailers, vehicles, and we are packed inside the firehouse. So I was looking for permission from this group to go out and look at what it would cost to put up a building behind the public safety building where we have room. And bring it back to the board on pricing before I go out for bid is actually what I'm trying to do. I don't want to move forward with a whole bunch of bidding process without getting a feel for what the facility is going to cost.
Were we not working on this a couple of years ago?
We've been working on it for a while. The economy, when it kind of slowed down a little bit, I put it on the back burner because I was afraid of costs and, what the economy was going to do. Since things are turning around a little bit, it's time to look at that. We house the dive trailer outside, which is about an $80,000 vehicle. I house a pickup truck outside that's about a $60,000 pursuit. We're packed inside our current facility. I know some of the board members have been in our facility. We're tight. We're tight for room. So, and that's also a concern from a human element when, backing in equipment and things of that nature that nobody gets hurt. So I'm looking just to go out and find out what this building is going to cost me before I make any moves.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, though, but you are already budgeting for it, correct?
Correct. I've budgeted quite a few times over the course of a few years, and I've backed off just due to the economy. But I think we're getting to a point now where I need to put this stuff inside because it's expensive and it just needs to be housed and kept warm.
And along with that, as part of that idea, the police have equipment that they,
correct. This is
they need.
This is a
This
two-sided coin, right?
It's not just the fire department; it is for both.
Yeah.
And it is something we've been talking about. I mean, the idea
right.
has been around, and then a different emergency had come up, the economy, whatever. So this is not new. We have a chance to get something. We need to know the price.
Right, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for getting a feel for what this could cost. It could come way over my thought process and it stops, but I'd like to find out what it's going to cost us.
Well, let's revisit it and see where, if it's time, it's time. See what we can do. Thank you. Anything else for Chief Tom?
Yeah, just excuse me, I just lost my train of thought. This is something that has been brought before amongst the commission, and the commission is support of this. So it's not. It has backing again within the commission itself.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
I think we're too tired to discuss too deeply. But refuse ordinance.
With that in mind, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to move this discussion to the next meeting because we still have a quiet.
So moved. But now we have one more closed session.
Yes.
With that,
is there any reason that can't be moved?
Yes.
There is a timeliness.
Timeliness.
Okay. With that, I
would move that we move to closed session.
I will second that. Those in favor of moving, I'll do another roll call vote. For going into closed session, Trustee Bletcher?
Aye.
Trustee Nelson?
Aye.
Madam Clerk?
Aye.
Supervisor, aye. Trustee?
Aye.
And Trustee Malvesta. Okay, all aye. We will take what do we need, 5-minute recess, a short recess?
Please.
And then we will be in closed session starting at a time to be determined, but we will proceed to the upstairs conference room. For those of you who gutted it out tonight, thank you for participating, your attention, and we're not done.